Hello, Mothering with Grace community. This is Crystal Wiley here. Talk to you today a little bit about liturgical family living. Liturgy means work of the people, which is exciting because what liturgy does is make Christ present. So when we talk about liturgical family living, we're talking about how do we live life at home to make Christ present in our home. When we go to church, we get lots of help with this. We see the colors changing, what the priest wears changes, sometimes the decorations in the church, maybe there's more candles, maybe there's fewer candles, maybe the pictures are covered up. But when we go to church, we see, oh yes, there's something going on here, something about Christ that we should be focusing on for here and now, so that we really become part of Christ. This is part of being the body of Christ, knowing all the little things that happened in his life and the big things. But Christ wants to be part of our lives too, so bringing those two together and inviting Christ into our celebrations at home is really important for us to become the domestic church, for us to become the body of Christ, that he may be in and through and with us in everything. So first, let's talk about liturgical seasons. You may or may not be familiar with a liturgical calendar. They're typically circular, so you can see the whole year at a glance. There are 6 seasons, sometimes counted as 7, starting with Advent, which actually starts late November, early December. That's the beginning of our year. Okay, we have Advent into Christmas, and then a brief moment of ordinary time. So that's 3 seasons already. Into Advent, or not Advent, Lent, the Triduum, Easter, more ordinary time, and then back around to Advent. Okay, so again, we have Advent, Christmas, a little bit of ordinary time, Lent, the Triduum, Easter, and then more ordinary time. So we already counted ordinary time. That's why some people say 7, some people say 6, but that's how it goes. Okay, in those big seasons, there are different levels of feasts. You have solemnities, which are the highest, and then you have feasts, and you have memorials. And the solemnity of the solemnities is Easter. This is our highest feast. And then if you're trying to figure out how do I rank solemnities versus feasts versus memorials, especially if you're trying to figure out how to incorporate all this in your daily life, it might be helpful for you to think about the solemnities, feasts, and memorials you might already celebrate at home. A good rule of thumb is think about what you expect your husband to remember. So, if you think about what is the highest and maybe fanciest feast day that you celebrate in your home, these might be solemnities. So when do you have, say if you go to church, you might see more candles on the altar. You'll see fancier clothes. So can you think of when do you maybe get all dressed up and might even get a couple of candles on the table? Anniversaries. An anniversary ought to be celebrated like a solemnity. Even if you can't do all the dress up and the candles and all that, it should still be remembered as a very, very special moment in your life. It is the genesis of your family life. Okay, feasts would be things that are still important. Everybody needs to know the solemnities. Everybody needs to be involved in the solemnities, which is why a lot of the solemnities are holy days of obligation. Like every Sunday is a holy day of obligation. Every Sunday is a solemnity. Feasts are things you still ought to know. Everybody still ought to be aware of and participate and celebrate, maybe with not as much pomp and circumstance, fanciness, pizzazz, but you still need to know them. You might not get all dressed up for all the kids' birthdays, but birthdays, these are good examples of feasts in your home. Then memorials can be obligatory, like you should still probably know about this, and then there's optional. And memorials and feasts and solemnities sometimes can change based on where you are in the world, your culture. For example, St. Patrick's Day in Ireland is a solemnity, kind of a big deal over there. Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico is a solemnity. For us, we have different memorials, different saints that are special to America that we might remember in a special way that other places in the world might not. So certain American saints might have obligatory memorials or optional memorials. So if to make the comparison with family life, let's say memorial, it would be nice if maybe your husband remembered your mom's birthday. That'd be nice, right? They might not. I mean, we might remember our mother-in-law's birthday. We better remember our mother-in-law's birthday, right? But it doesn't have the same level of importance as, say, our kid's birthday. So that's more of a feast, family birthdays, whereas maybe some of the events that are out there in family life, a little less important, but still good to know. And then optional memorial. I don't know how long you've been married. I've been married 7 years. But still would be cool if my husband remembered our first date, right? Optional memorial. I'm not going to hold it against him if he doesn't. So, let's see here. So that's solemnities, feasts, memorials. If you have a liturgical calendar, if you're thinking about getting one, hopefully we can make one available to you to print off or pick up from Holy Trinity. You can color in these things, the events in the life of Christ, and your own. Add your family solemnities, feasts, and memorials to this. If you are just getting started in some of this, how do I liturgical family life living thing, a good way to start might be to, one, think about your own family lives as solemnity memorials, but also what are your and your kids' patron saints? Could you add them to your calendar? Okay, that would be something to start celebrating. I like to change tablecloths. That's been my easy go-to of, hey, look, changing of seasons, purple or green or red. So let's talk about these colors next. There are 4 colors that have been approved for use for 500 years-ish, and then there are some other little colors that are accepted, even if they are not formally recognized and approved worldwide. So the ones that you're going to see most often are white, which symbolize purity and joy and light, and you'll see this at Christmas and Easter and the feasts of Mary and Jesus and non-martyr saints. Then you have red, the color for fire and passion and blood. Very, very popular one. Blood, because you will see these, especially on martyred saints. You will see this for Good Friday, for Pentecost, fire, passion. When we talk about passion, we're talking about Christ's passion, okay, for us, for his church. So those symbols of where his outpouring of love overflows so much, Good Friday, Pentecost, that's where you'll see the red. Green, hope and life, just living life. Green is the color for ordinary time, but it's a time to live and to remember what it is to live and walk alongside Christ, and remember that he also lived an ordinary life for at least 30 years. Purple would be the 4th color that you will see, and purple is penance, preparation, and sacrifice, which is why you'll see it not only in Lent but also in Advent. Not a lot of people know that Advent isn't just about preparing, but it's also a little bit of penance and sacrifice, making room in our hearts for the newborn King. So it's sometimes called a little Lent. You'll also see blue for Our Lady. You might see black. Not as much now. People tend to wear black for funerals, but it's become more and more popular to see white at funerals because we've realized that death is that door to new life, and that should be the focus. We are sad, yes, but there is a new beginning here, and they've just reached it before us, and we should celebrate that with them. It is their birthday in heaven. And then finally, the ever popular pink, rose color that has a joyful connotation, and it's optional. Priests do not have to wear the rose color if they don't want to, okay? They can still wear the purple, but it's kind of fun. So using those colors, when I make my family liturgical calendar, I might think about my family members and how their birthdays or their particular saints' feast days, what that is. So yes, my daughter, I have her colored on my calendar in pink because there's so much joy and hope and love there. All right, so I think that wraps up all that I want to tell you. Again, here's a calendar. Fill it out. Think about some of those big feast days, solemnities, holy days of obligation. Look them up. Maybe somebody will provide things in a link. And also, what do you do as a family with your children? in each of the months of the year, in each of the seasons, liturgical seasons, I want to hear how you make Christ present in your home, and share those ideas of, this doesn't have to be overwhelming, it doesn't have to be difficult. What can you do simply to make Christ present in your home and in your family? Thank you so much for listening. God bless.